Hey, so I was recently asked how I created this Zsphere's armature, which I'm using as a base for all of my anatomy sculpts. Here it is. And I created this using some references for proportions and then kind of eyeballing it. It's not perfect, the proportions, but it's good enough for what I'm doing because I'm changing a lot of things as I'm already sculpting. But this is good for just creating the general pose and then refining it as you're going along and sculpting. So without much further talk, let's just jump into it and I show you how I created this. So before we continue, I just wanted to point out that if you would like, there are already some mannequins that come shipping with Zbrush, which you can find by pressing semicolon on your keyboard and going to this project tab. You'll find the mannequin folder here. So here inside this folder, you will find some mannequins already pre-made. Some of them are by Ryan Kingsley, who is an amazing artist with deep knowledge of anatomy, so you can be sure that they're proportionally great. I like sometimes using this male human mannequin. Here it is. You can see it's got nice proportions. You can already pose it however you want, and it's ready to, pose and sculpt. So if you are looking for just a quick little armature to start with, this is perfect in many ways. As I mentioned, I used it myself quite a lot. I stopped using it for a couple of reasons. One is that I wasn't too keen on the cylindrical shaped head to sculpt the head from. I prefer a sphere. And another reason is when we turn it into adaptive skin, if we check it, if we turn off the Dynamesh and preview it again, you can see it's all separate meshes, and I prefer when the whole thing is just one mesh. I know there are ways to fix this, but for me it's just nicer when it's all one continuous mesh to start with. So that's why I created my own one, and now I show you how I've done that. Now, the person who has asked me about this also mentioned that they have some issues with proportions, and what I can say for that is you definitely would benefit from using references whenever you do something like this, and you could just use pure ref, or you can align some references in Zbrush. But what we're gonna do today, just to save some time, we're gonna use this demo soldier scene that comes with Zbrush to create our armature. So here is our demo soldier. Let's get rid of all the clothes because we don't need them for what we're doing, and they're just going to get in the way. So here he is. He looks about right for proportions. For what we're doing, I think it's fine, because anyway, whenever you sculpt anything, you would be changing the proportions a little bit when you posed and had a look in the pose and how it all compares to a reference. So first of all, we're going to start creating the armature. We need to append the Zsphere, and you do that by clicking this append and choosing Zsphere here. So to make sure that we can see this sphere, let's put on our transparency, and I'll put on ghost mode as well, because without it I had some issues with drawing. Let's move our sphere forward. First of all, let's make sure that we have symmetry turned on, because without symmetry it can just go some place where we don't want it. So let's place the symmetry, and then we can move it up and down. Let's move it forward. Now let's move it slightly up, and let's start drawing some more spheres. So by selecting draw or pressing Q on your keyboard, you will be able to add some spheres to this. And there we go. We added some joints for our hips. We now need to draw some more. And I'm pressing Q to draw and W to move things. And all this time I have symmetry on, so that allows me to quickly draw and position this joints. So here is our knee. Here is our ankle, and maybe let's press E. That will move this scale tool, so we can scale them down a little bit. Back to Q to draw. And you will notice this snapping that I do, which basically snaps the current joint to the size of the previous one, or current Zsphere. And that's basically by holding a shift button as you're drawing it. So there we go, we're already done our legs. And now let's just do the upper body. Back to drawing. For the neck, I usually like to add a couple of Z-spheres here. So we'll have this one as a base of the neck. And then let's add another one, which will be our actual neck. And then another one, which will be our head. And then let's just solo it out to see how it looks. Yeah, that looks all right. And now let's just create his arms and we're done, pretty much. So back to Q to draw. Scale them down a little bit. Q to draw. Drag it to where his elbows are. Now we have our elbow joints. Kind of feel they should be a little bit lower. Yeah, let's go to where the actual elbow is. And Q again to draw. Pull this out. Our wrist. And actually my model doesn't, my armature doesn't have the palms, but we might as well add them here, because that is something I notice quite often when I sculpt. The fact that the palms are missing is very annoying, because I have to then later dynamesh them out, and it's a bit of a mission. So here we go, that's pretty much our armature done. It looks a little bit wide in shoulders for my liking. So we can just go in and slightly amend the proportions now that we have the whole thing there. And so yeah, I'm just moving with the W to move, E to scale, and R to rotate. So let's just move the hip joints back a little bit. Forward. We can also, I prefer to spread the legs a little bit, which helps if sculpting in a neutral pose. But yeah, more or less, this is the armature that I use. In fact, this is probably slightly better because this guy has palms. And in order to convert this into, so we can delete our reference now, and we have this. It might have a bit too broad shoulders for a regular person, So let's maybe just scale that a bit down, but it's fine. So in order to convert it to a mesh, to see a mesh preview, I'm using A on my keyboard, which creates this little adaptive skin preview. And if you put on polyframe, you'll see that this is actually already conveniently split into polygroups, which is very handy when we come to sculpting. What you will see though is that it's incredibly high poly, which is not something we want. So to fix this, we would go into adaptive skin, and here where it says Dynamesh resolution, let's put it down to 0. And let's just click preview again. And you can see that here with the density 2, it creates this nice little mesh, which is quite easy to handle and control, already split into polygroups. And this is perfect. So now we can just click make adaptive skin. That will create the adaptive skin on which I sculpt. So this Zsphere rig is still here. So if we press A, it goes back to the rig if we want to fix it. But the model I will actually sculpt on is this skin Zsphere. So I'll just append it here, and we can rename it. So this will be the original rig, which is something that what I used to pose things with. And then when I'm happy with the pose, I make the adaptive skin, and then I append it here. And this is the bit where I continue the sculpt. So this is it. This has already subdivisions, like it has 2 levels of subdivisions because of how we set up our adaptive skin for the rig. Like the density is 2, so the subdivisions are 2. And yeah, we're ready to add some more divisions and then sculpt away on this model. I hope this was useful, and yeah, this is what I use for all of my sculpts, and then I just correct proportions on the lower levels as I'm already sculpting and as the thing is already in the pose. So hopefully this was helpful. Have a nice day, and thanks for watching.